The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. We're coming to you live from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. This is the home for Autism Live. It is also the home for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. We're really thrilled to be here with you on this Wednesday morning. I know some of you who are watching on Facebook, we posted a thing saying, make sure you tune in today for a special edition of Autism Live and Ask Dr. Doreen. And I know sometimes you think that that means it's a pre-recorded. No, we're live, unless you're watching us after this date, in which case we're not. But in this date and this time, we are live. It is Wednesday morning. I don't even know what the date is today, but it is Wednesday morning. It is 10 a.m. It's the 8th? I see it. I'm like in left field, but it's the 8th. Traven says it's the 8th, so I'm sure that it is. So we are live right now, and you can be writing into us on YouTube and Facebook. In fact, we're going to have Traven show you a bunch of ways that you can participate with us. While he does that, I want to remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. When you go there, it's a brand new website, and I'm loving hearing your comments about how you're able to find more videos in a quicker, faster way. And please let us know what you need in addition to that on our homepage, because we love serving you. That's what this whole thing is about. By the way, it's different now on the new website. On some servers, the live show, when it's live, will just pop up. Others, you have to actually click the button that says live. There's a red button up there when we're live. Go ahead and click that. It will full screen the show for you. The chat is now at the bottom. In the bottom, I guess that's right-hand corner. If you click on it, it opens up, and then you can type in there, and it shows up here on my screen. I have it open this morning and ready for your comments. We're also going to be looking at comments that you guys write in on Facebook and YouTube as well. We do love it when the show is interactive. I think that's the thing that makes us the happiest, and you tell us that that makes you happy too. So it is Wednesday, and this is a very special show. We have Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh here with us live in the studio. And we'll tell you why the show is so special in just a minute. But she's going to be answering your questions in real time. So we hope that you'll be writing in on whatever way feels comfortable for you. Write into us, and we'll try to get to as many of the questions as we possibly can. We have some that you guys have been writing in throughout the week that we're going to start with, but then we'll turn to taking the ones that are live. So, my friends, it is time for Ask Dr. Doreen.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen. Welcome to Ask Dr. Doreen. We just surprised Dr. Granpeesheh. She's just now seeing that our special guest on the show is her youngest daughter, Charlie. And we love Charlie. Charlie was an intern, but then you were like an intern on steroids for Autism Live. You progressed past intern into like producer and developer and all these other things. But that was last year. But so Charlie is here because this is the Mother's Day edition of Ask Dr. Doreen. And so we wanted to have a special treat. So we brought one of your daughters.
That's
your
right.
other two children are too busy because they're in school. And,
they're not in LA, unfortunately.
Right.
Here,
Otherwise, they they would have been here too.
Thank you.
And then it would have been a very full
That's
studio. But
amazing.
we believe in making things reinforcing, and what better thing to make it reinforcing than this fabulous young woman.
Always lovely to have Charlie here. Thank you.
Yes. Charlie, welcome. You've been on the
Thank
show
you.
before.
I have, yeah.
But never in this format before.
Nope.
So Charlie's going to be helping us to ask the questions, and we want to remind everybody that even though Dr. Grandpichet is, I believe, the preeminent expert in the field of autism in our time or any time, and she's been working in this field for how many years? I stumble over because my mind goes a number and then it goes, no, it can't be.
Right.
40?
40, yeah. Over
Like, it
40.
can't
This is
be.
the
It
41st
can't be.
year.
Uh,
It's kind of freaky.
That's impressive,
Yeah.
right? It's very impressive.
Very impressive.
But it's also unbelievable because you don't look like that you've been on the planet for 40 years. So it's like, what, was she doing that in the womb?
Shannon told me I look like a teenager today.
She does. She looks like a teenager today.
You look younger than me.
There you go. Well, you know that I have said, there's a picture of you at your wedding that was how many years ago? Not that terribly long ago.
No, 5 years ago.
5 years ago. There's a picture of you with your mother, and I looked at it and I was like, if you put my face in there, I could look like your mother's mother. You people look so young. It's I'm jelly. I'm totally jealous of this. But honestly, you have good genes. You see what you come
hopefully.
from? Yes. In any case, we digress. But as I was saying, Dr. Grandpichet is a true expert in the field of autism, and she gives us this hour whenever she has it available to answer your questions in real time. But please know that there is no expert in any field that could give you individual specific advice. So she's going to give you advice of a general nature. With the information that you give her, be as specific as possible. And you guys write into us all the time and tell us how helpful it is. So without further ado, Charlie, would you like to read the very first question?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm looking for proper ways to shape positive behavior when losing a video game that my 1-year-old plays alone. I've tried social stories and increased positive reinforcement when he displays the correct behavior. My son has property destruction and SIBs along with severe tantrums when losing a game. He is limited in time to 1 hour of video games on his iPhone when he comes home. This is tearing me apart. Please help.
I just want to say that I think there's a typo in it. I put it as it was so that we could read it as it was, but they're saying it's a 1-year-old. I believe that there should be a 0 after that because I don't know of many 1-year-olds that have their own iPhone, have this much time to play video games and engage in self-injurious behavior.
Yes, you're probably right.
Right.
That's a good point. Thank
So
you for pointing that out.
I'm going to assume that it's a 10-year-old. If the person who wrote this question in, if that's wrong, please write in immediately and tell us. And then that's a whole other question about why does your 1-year-old have their own iPhone? But I don't
honestly.
think that's the thing.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to kind of take this question in. The parent, I think, is asking us how they handle the child falling apart when they lose in a video game, right? And so, as always, Shannon, we have to ask a lot of questions about the function of this behavior and what's actually causing this behavior, Charlie. And so we have to assume that two things could potentially be happening. What are you're smiling?
No, I'm just smiling because it's so fun to have both of you here.
I know, it is funny.
It's
so
fun.
So there's a couple of things, and I'm just making assumptions because I really don't know what the function is and what's going on. A lot of times when we try to identify the function of behavior, we have to look at the things that are happening right before and right after the behavior, right? So potentially the thing that is instigating it as an antecedent, so the thing that's happening right before the behavior is that the child is losing, and when they lose, they get frustrated, right? So we have to figure out ways that we can give that antecedent of losing, but teach the child an alternative behavior, an alternative way of expressing their frustration. The other thing is what's happening right after the tantrum or SIB, self-injurious behavior, and property destruction. I assume the child might be throwing things or just having a full-on meltdown. But then the question is what happens after that? And a lot of times we try to calm our children down, or in this case perhaps do a social story, or I don't know what exactly the parent is doing, but those things that we end up doing start to reinforce that behavior. Any kind of consequence will, of course, that's a positive consequence, will increase the thing that just happened before it. So let's go back and break it down again. When the child loses, what exactly are you doing? Let's assume the child loses, has a meltdown. What do you do that you think, how are you trying to calm your child down? So we have to alter that, because if you are in any way trying to give them calming messages, trying to tell them things are going to be okay, trying to, I'm not sure what else
Comfort.
do we do, just comfort them.
Yeah.
All that sort of stuff is a reinforcer, and any behavior that occurs right before a reinforcer is going to increase. So do not comfort. It's very hard to tell a parent.
Well, it's really hard because sometimes in the moment we don't see that what we're doing is causing the problem. So when your child is disappointed or upset or frustrated, sometimes you try to distract them out of it.
Right.
And you go, let's not worry about the video game. Let's go watch SpongeBob SquarePants and I'll make you some cookies.
Yes.
And it seems like a good parenting, like I'm going to take your mind off the thing you're upset about. But what you're saying is that then it just feeds into it. So it's like I'm playing my game and I'm frustrated and I'm going to throw a hissy fit because then I'm going to get SpongeBob and cookies and lemonade.
That's exactly right. So you, as a parent, you still want to be able to distract and reinforce for a better behavior, but you need to do it before the tantrum, before the meltdown. And that's what's really important. So as parents, we kind of know when our child's about to fall apart.
Yeah.
So it's key to try to identify, okay, he just lost.
Right.
If you can watch it, right? He just lost, and before we have a full meltdown, I'm going to try to offer some other activity and perhaps even teach the child to say, I lost, I'm frustrated, and those two messages, I lost, I'm frustrated, gets the child some other activity and cookies and love and TV and whatever else you want to do. But if the child starts to melt down, that whole plan is gone now.
Okay.
You cannot do that. If the child starts to melt down, has a meltdown, starts self-injurious, but whatever it is, you need to exit. Because let me tell you, first of all, this is not, in the old days, the true definition of self-injurious behavior a long time ago was that it was behavior that was intrinsically motivating. So these were children in the 70s and 80s that used to actually be very self-injurious in very aggressive ways, like hitting their head against the wall, biting their fingers off, like horrible stuff.
Yeah.
But it was intrinsic. It had nothing really to do with what was going on around them. And the reason we knew this was that you could see the child doing this when they were completely isolated. There was no demand being placed, no reinforcer, no removal or increase in reinforcer, no functional change in the environment, and the child would do this, right? This type of SIV that we're talking about is just a frustrated child. It's like a frustrated adult who would punch the wall.
Right.
It's the same exact thing. So basically, frustration coming out in the form of self-injurious behavior or a severe tantrum is just frustration. Let's face it, it's just frustration. And the best way that you can deal with this is to just let the individual, if you're not there, okay, so let's just go back to this. When I'm tantruming, what am I trying to do? What am me as the frustrated child, as I tantrum, what I'm trying to express to you is, I'm super frustrated, this isn't fair, this is not okay, I'm so mad at the world, maybe it's your fault, whatever, right? I'm just angry. Teach the child to make those statements instead of having a full-on meltdown. And the way you do that is you literally prompt the child as soon as they're lost to say, I lost, I'm really angry, I'm frustrated, I hate this, or whatever it is, in a written format, in a verbal format, and then immediately reinforce that. When they make a mistake and tantrum or do self-injurious or whatever it is, leave. Just leave. I know it's very hard for parents to leave when a child is being aggressive, but they will, even if it gets worse, they'll get better. It'll get better. If you don't trust me and don't want to leave because you're worried the child might injure themselves or might
properties,
Furniture, yeah.
whatever it is, that you can stay there, but you cannot interact. You cannot say anything at all. You cannot say, don't do that. You can't say anything at all. And all you can do is just make sure there's the environment is not being damaged.
So you physically block. You go, if they're about to go over, like I know one of the things that Jem used to do was, we would call it the swipe. And he would take his hands and whatever was close by and he would go, boom, and whatever would go on the floor. So we would go over with no expression on our face, turn our face, and we would just like hold all the things there so that he couldn't do it, but not look at him. It was hard.
It's very hard, and it does actually extend things a little bit. It increases the duration of the time the child is going to engage because
they're frustrated they can't get that, right?
That's right. Because as long as you're there, what's happening mentally in the child's head is, she's still here, how can I get her attention?
Yeah.
Maybe instead of the swipe, I can punch her in the head.
Right.
Like literally the child will try to do something to get your attention. That's why I'm saying it's always best to just leave and remove things, just like remove everything. You know, it's funny, when the kids were young and Nikki, who's like extremely civilized, your older sister, she was the first, and she used to have meltdowns. We don't even remember it because she was so young when she stopped. But the thing is that the people, we had au pairs from Germany who were helping us, and the au pairs never could handle it. They would always try to go and calm her and say like, oh, please don't do that. And I was like trying to train them behaviorally and say, you're making it worse. And so I couldn't get them to understand that by communicating, they were making it worse. So I actually taught Nikki to remove herself from the environment. So whenever she was about to have a tantrum, she knew to go down the hall into like a hallway or a room where no one else was, close the door and have a full meltdown. And it was amazing, like it completely stopped, right, after a while. And that, not to make fun of this because it's very emotional when you as a parent are going through it, and Charlie and I had many of these, but
No,
yes.
not Charlie.
Yeah,
Listen,
and
I throw tantrums at this age, so we're all good.
yeah. But it is very tough. But the thing is that it's when we try to, the lesson I think is that when we try to console our kids after they've already started to melt down, it's just making things worse. And what you have to do is learn to console before the child starts to have a meltdown. And you can console them by having the child do something completely different, as you said.
Yeah, and I'm not kidding. I mean, it's been a while since I've had a tantrum, but the tantrum that I talk about on the show from time to time that was really eye-opening to me was that I went with my husband and my son to one of those Dick's Sporting Goods because we needed to get shoes for Jem.
Yeah.
Everybody was tired and hot, especially me. And I was at a point in my life where I was having acid reflux. So every time I bent over, I would have acid go up my throat, and it was very painful.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of miserable, and we're in the Dick's Sporting Goods where they blare the music as loud as they can, and I'm very sensory sensitive. And end of a long day, and we had to get shoes. It wasn't like we could come back another time.
You
he
needed
had
it
to
that
get
day,
shoes
yeah.
that day. And my husband was being my husband, you know, being Santa Claus, and he was off looking at things and being excited by all the shoes, right? And Jem was like laying on the bench going, I don't want to be here, because he was tired. And I was like, but we have to get shoes. And I have this stack of shoes, and I'm trying to screw them onto his foot without him paying attention. And my husband was having a field day looking at some shoe that he was never going to wear to do the activity in, that was said on the bottom of it that it needed to be done with, right? And I was like, could you help me? Could somebody please help me? But no one was listening to me. And I was saying to the salesperson, can you turn the music down? Like, I can't even hear myself think. But no one was listening to me, and I wasn't getting my needs met. And I saw that I wasn't going to. Like, I had asked, and it wasn't happening.
Nobody was listening.
And nobody was listening, and my frustration got to the point where I had no other alternatives in my head. So I laid down on the floor in the middle of Dick's.
Right.
I just laid down on the floor. My husband, then now I have his attention. He's like, what's happening? And I was like, no one's helping me, so I'm going to lay here until somebody does.
Are you serious?
I'm totally serious. I laid on the floor, and my husband was like, get up.
Oh
You're
my
embarrassing me. And I was like, oh, I feel so bad for you. He needs shoes. I'm laying here until something changes.
Yeah.
Right? It was like civil disobedience.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And then everybody was like, I'll turn the music down, I'll sit up, I'll help with the shoes.
Yeah.
Suddenly I got my way.
You got attention.
And what's funny about it is I was like, wow, is that what I have to do to get attention? And now anytime we go into a store and I'm at the end, I say, I need some help and support here. And my husband will be like, don't lay down on the floor. Whatever you do, don't lay down on the floor. Just don't do that, right? And I'm like, well then, help me, stay with me on this. And I learned from that. That it's very effective when you throw a tantrum, because all of a sudden everybody's like, don't
Absolutely,
do that.
yeah. It's avoid. You basically taught Jim to avoid your behavior. So that's a sort of escape function.
Right.
By doing what you want, he's escaping you laying on the floor.
Right. But my point is that I felt like, as an adult, I was at least 50 when this happened, that I had no other choice.
Yeah.
Because the shoes had to be purchased, and I wasn't getting what I needed, even though I was communicating. And I think a lot of times for kids, what other choice do they have until we teach them another way?
No, absolutely. This is why I always say, we have to remember, and I also, as a parent, having gone through this a few times, I know that when it's happening, we don't remember this stuff. We just don't. We fall apart ourselves. I mean, to this day, we have this conversation where one of us will fall apart, Charlie and I, and then 5 minutes later, now, a lot of times, Charlie, not just me, she'll text me and be like, I think we're both just tired, or something like that, it's absolutely true. We fall apart because we are frustrated. We're past that point where anyone's listening to us. We can't get our needs met. We're trying. We don't know how else to do it. And that tantrum, this is so important to remember. That severe tantrum is communication. It's your child saying, I hate losing. What can I do to change this? Blah, blah, blah. And by the way, it's also him saying, I liked it last time when I had a tantrum and you came and took care of me.
Yeah.
So instead of just saying, I need you to help calm me down and make cookies for me right now, because I'm not feeling good, he's just doing what got him the good stuff last time. That's all.
But having said all of this, there are lessons and skills about self-regulation.
Yes,
too,
there are. Yes.
That can be very helpful. I've shared before on the show that at a certain point, we were watching a video of a parent being frustrated and a child being frustrated, and my son said to me, doesn't that mom know that he's just frustrated and nobody ever dies from frustration?
Right.
And I was like, oh,
yeah,
that
that's a good one.
lesson thing worked really well.
Yeah.
He's learned that, and that's a skill that he takes with him in life.
Yeah.
That's how he languages it for himself when he's frustrated. And he learned that because somebody taught him the lesson from skills.
I love it.
So look at skills.
Yeah, because in the long run, it is important to teach our kids to be okay with losing,
Yes.
So there's another lesson in skills also that's called winning and losing. And that's kind of the mental stuff around it. And this is another conversation that Shannon and I often have, is that when there's a behavioral issue going on, when there's challenging behavior or meltdown happening, that is definitely not the time to teach a new concept. You need to just fall into behavioral responses, which is, in this case, extinction. You ignore the behavior, you move away, let it extinguish. But having said that, there's a lot to learn just outside of these scenarios. And some of those lessons in skills would be very helpful in terms of teaching him that it is okay to lose, and that if you were to win every single time, you wouldn't even enjoy it anymore, and that we're sharing with someone else. By the way, having a hard time with winning and losing is somewhat related to the theory of mind deficit. Because you have a hard time understanding that there's always going to be a loser, right? If there's a winner, there's a loser. That's what games are. We don't all come out winners. That wouldn't be possible. So being able to take someone else's perspective and say, it's okay, this time he won, next time I might win, that's also a very mature thing. It's not something that I would think a 10-year-old I would be able to handle, and perhaps a 10-year-old who might be having some issues with perspective taking would find it even harder.
Yeah, and as you were talking, I thought about something that Stan Kurtz said to me. And we need to have Stan on the show sometime soon. But
Definitely.
Stan Kurtz said to me, he said, I was having such a hard time with my son playing video games. And especially when we had to go someplace and it was time to turn it off because we have to go out the door, and that it would be this tussle between them. And he said, I wasn't using all the things that I know about in life, my perspective taking. He said, I didn't know what it was like to play the video game that he's playing. So he said, I decided to sit down, download the app, play the game myself, and see what it's like. And he said, I realized that there are points in the game when it's very hard to stop.
Exactly.
And that having prior notice, that like sometimes you play, he was talking about Clash of Clans and how you're in a thing and you're in the middle of fighting another clan and you can't just put it down, or you might lose everything that you've worked for 3 months.
Yeah.
And he said, knowing that helped me to be able to communicate with my
absolutely.
son. And he changed the way he talked to him, so he would say, hey bud, I know you're playing this video game, but in 30 minutes we're gonna leave, so don't start something that you can't stop within 30 minutes.
Right.
But that sometimes he would sit alongside his son and play together with him, and he said, I realized how into the game you get and how frustrated you get, and then I modeled the behavior for him when I would lose.
Yes. Oh, right. Very good.
And boy, that was news to me. And so now I have Clash of Clans on my phone and a bunch of other games that now I'm hooked on, thanks Stan Kurtz, because they're kind of reinforcing.
Definitely.
But what a great thing to do, because it became another way that I could communicate with my kid.
Absolutely.
These games are weird.
No, and games are a big part of it. I learned a lot from Sonny too, just sitting next to him and so on. But can I just tell you, it's not just about games. I think you often tell me that like one of the things you see that I do a lot is perspective taking.
Yes.
And I think that is why I have a good relationship with my kids, because I think throughout their lives, I always try to see things from their perspective. And I think it's very helpful to any parent if they really try to and this is what we forget. That's why I always tell my friends, at a certain point you have to become friend, not just parents. You have to become the friend, because friends see things from each other's perspective and parents often don't, because we're so kind of rule governed, things have to happen at this time and so on. But if you try to see things from your child's perspective, a lot of things that are rules just don't matter. They're just rules that don't matter.
Yeah.
So
you can attest to that, right? I mean, my son would certainly be raising his hand going, yes, that rule doesn't matter. Anyway, so hopefully we've given you a lot of information, and I gave you way too much information about some things. But anyway, hopefully that will help you. We're going to take a break, but you guys keep your comments and questions running in. We're going to check in on Facebook during the break. Stick with us.
Do you provide care services to someone with autism? Recently, more and more children are being diagnosed with the condition and getting the support they need as awareness grows. But what happens to these children as they grow up? It's estimated that over 500,000 youth with autism will turn 18 in the next decade, and they'll be faced with a very difficult reality. As children with autism grow up, their services start to disappear or become very difficult to access. Things like medical care, mental health counseling, vocational training, and more. All services that are still desperately needed. The loss of support that youth with autism face as they grow up is so severe that it's referred to in the autism community as falling off a cliff. Adults with autism need the same level of support they had as children to avoid falling off the services cliff. Introducing Skills Living, the web-based software designed specifically to help transitioning youth and adults with autism so they can avoid the cliff and instead fly to success. With Skills Living, help your learner with autism develop the skills they need in all the critical areas of adult life, including self-control, planning, and problem-solving, effective communication, performing life skill tasks for independent living, acquiring and maintaining employment or other meaningful activities, developing and maintaining social skills and relationships, accessing transportation and public services, and being safe. Skills Living includes a comprehensive assessment, a data collection mobile app, behavior intervention plan builder, and automatic progress reporting. It also provides a complete curriculum addressing 16 key areas, spanning the entire range of functioning adulthood. Skills Living is easy to use and can be implemented by schools, parents, and autism service providers. Call or click today for your free demo and see how Skills Living can help your learner with autism avoid the cliff and instead reach their fullest potential. Skills Living. Wish, learn, become.
A lot of adults don't really believe kids. They think, kids are kids, what are they talking about? But when a child stands up for what they believe in, it's so strong and powerful. I first got involved with autism advocacy 4 years ago when my friend was diagnosed. When I found out about my friend's diagnosis, I didn't really understand what it meant. But it didn't matter to me or change our friendship. I didn't look at her any differently. We still had so much fun together. Now I know that she experiences life a little differently than me, and that's okay. Knowing what she goes through has helped me to understand and be more caring towards other people in similar situations. I got involved with ACT Today because I wanted to do whatever I could to help. They provide options like behavioral therapy, medical care, social skills programs, assistance to military families, and much more. Being there for my friend was my #1 priority. I've been volunteering and spreading the word about the cause via my social media platform because raising awareness is a crucial first step. There needs to be more kids and teens involved to make sure that our voices are heard just as loudly as the adults. You may be small like me, but your acts of kindness are not.
Welcome back to Autism Live, and to ask Dr. Doreen, if you're like, who's that? This is Charlie, and Charlie is Dr. Graham-Pichet's youngest daughter. She was also our intern, very notably a fabulous, fabulous intern. So we're asking Charlie to read a comment that came in from Cassidy on Facebook.
She says, "Hey Shannon, Dr. Doreen, and Charlie. Not a question, but just wanted to let you know there's a camp for children and adults with autism spectrum in my state. I think it's a great way to make friends and socialize since it's very hard for people with autism to make friends and socialize. It's an awesome camp. It's good to have something like that in my state. It's also a good way for parents of children and adults with autism to have a break. The staff and counselors are always so great."
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Cassidy. Maybe you want to send us the name of the camp and what state, so that we can announce that as well. We'd appreciate it.
Wonderful.
We'll give them a plug because we love it's camp time. It's time to be setting.
That's
up
true.
when you're gonna be
My
in camps.
gosh.
So anyway, we're here answering questions. Actually, we're here and you're answering questions.
This is great.
Let's be clear about that. But in any case, let's move on to this next question. I want to know if it's possible for my 7-year-old to stop stimming if I try organic food. I'm going to try it starting June 1. And does fish oil help too? And can you recommend a vitamin to help her? My girl talks a couple of words a day. If she's on a computer, she will sing along sometimes, half the words, and then the next part is another one. I didn't separate them. And I addressed this a little bit the other day just from my point of view about the organic thing, but I really wanted your opinion because I can't recommend a supplement, and I wanted for them to hear your take on the stimming and the organic and
All this other
fish
stuff,
oil.
yeah. So, it's possible. So, there's a lot of different things that we're talking about here. So, organic food in general obviously is going to reduce toxicity and is going to be good for pretty much anyone for any reason. So, unfortunately in the US, most of our food is pretty toxic. It has a lot of pesticides on it, and having organic food reduces the pesticides. So that's a good thing, especially because there's a lot of research now on the fact that individuals on the autism spectrum have difficulty with redox cycle or being able to detoxify from toxins. So I would recommend organic food anyway. It's just for health issues. Whether or not it's going to improve self-stimulatory behavior, honestly, I don't know. It's possible if the self-stimulatory behavior is an expression of the child feeling a little bit, let's say, irritated or There's lots of foods right now which are causing increased anxiety in our kids. Pesticides could have those types of effects and so on, but there hasn't been a lot of science done on a direct cause in terms of like inorganic foods and pesticides and so on causing self-stimulatory behavior. So it's a very sort of multi-step connection if we want to make that connection. There are other things you could do for reduction of self-stimulatory behaviors, but you would really need to learn a little bit more about behavior interventions, ABA, and try to figure out why some of these self-stimulatory behaviors are occurring. In my mind, self-stimulatory behaviors usually are one of three things. The first one is they're a way to cope with pain. Second one is they are just habits that have occurred and we need to break those habits, just like tics. And the third thing is that they are a reaction to anxiety or increased anxiety, and it's a way to control our environment. And that's just kind of some of the things I've learned over the years. So it's basically, I think it would be important to figure out in your child what is the self-stimulatory behavior accomplishing, and then you can modify that. Second thing is you asked about fish oil. Fish oil generally is proven to help with things like cognitive function. So memory in particular is one of the things that is, I take a ton of fish oil because my memory is so horrible. So that's kind of the connection there is with fish oil. I'm not sure that there's much more to say about that. In terms of vitamins, you know, I wouldn't want to recommend a series of vitamins for your child. I don't know enough about your child or to be able to say, oh, it sounds like your child would benefit from vitamin D or A or whatever it is. If you're thinking in terms of changing your child's biochemistry with supplements, I would really recommend that you see a doctor who is specializing in dietary interventions and supplements, and also in just taking a look at your child's biochemistry. So being able to take a blood test or a urine analysis, organic acid metabolite analysis to see how's your child doing. Is there anything that your child is deficient on? It's surprising sometimes when we do these types of tests, and you know, an organic acids metabolized test you can do with urine, so it's much less invasive. But when you do that, you can see a lot of the different types of chemicals that your child might be deficient on. We have had children who have a lot of pica. They eat things that are inedible, and they specifically try to eat things like, you know, a piece of the wall or chalk or things that indicate, and then we find out, oh, this child had a calcium deficiency. So it's really important to find out if your child has a deficiency, and then of course your physician or your dietitian or nutritionist will tell you exactly what type of diet to put your child on.
There we go. I want to say that on YouTube, Juniper has written in and says, Happy Mother's Day, and she has a question for Charlie. She says, how does Charlie self-motivate herself? Great to be so driven at such a young age. Appreciate any tips on positive rewards for teens and preteens, and thank you. And we really haven't even listed your accomplishments because honestly, she is so accomplished at the age that she is. You inspire me on a regular basis. You're not even 18 years old. And can I say what you just did, or why don't you say the class that you just did?
Oh, I took an EMT class, so I'm now certified as an EMT.
Which is amazing.
And she's not even 18 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, well,
so she can't even. So I love the. So she can't even receive the actual certificate because she has to let them know when she turns 18, which I think is hilarious.
I'm saying, so that's some serious. You don't even know how appropriate your question is, how self-driven she is.
Yeah.
So, what would you say to that?
I don't know. I think I try to reward myself with things that are small, but I know I can treat myself to, whether that's like watching a show I like, or hanging out with my friends, or just surrounding myself with people I love. I like setting small goals. I think that's way easier because it's like a lot less frustrating when if you set a really high goal and you just can't get it. I think it's way easier to give up. But if you set small goals for yourself, it's a lot more motivating and just easier. And yeah, I guess that's it. I don't know.
It's amazing. Like, I've come to realize that Charlie is very driven, and I think that's part of this question. And I often also wonder, like, what motivates or drives her to keep accomplishing the next thing. And as I observe it in you, I see that, like, there's a sense of satisfaction in terms of being able to kind of climb this mountain and climb that mountain. And it's just, so in other words, the reward is sort of built into the task. It's like, if I can finish this task, it feels really good that I've finished this task, and this is one more thing that I now know how to do. And she's very, the other thing I want to say is that Charlie's very different. Like, she just goes and finds her own things. You know, as you know, this whole EMT thing came out of nowhere. And as you know, Shannon, like, one of the things she's very interested in is actually looking into becoming a firefighter, you know. And so that's kind of like where did that come from? But at the same time, it's such an incredibly just brave concept, and the things that, so I think one of the things you just said, which is very key, is that you have a very good awareness of yourself, but you do break things down, which is possibly related to how ABA has influenced my life and raising all of you guys, which is kind of like, break it down into chunks, achieve each one, and then keep going. It helps you not get completely down on yourself, you know? The other thing I'll say about Charlie, which is I admire greatly, is that she juggles a massive number of things, which, hello, you know, welcome to my world.
Doesn't fall,
it's like Charlie,
apple doesn't fall from the tree.
and Nikki's the same. We're all just like, you know, doers. But at the same time, she does this thing which I wish I had, like, my whole life. I'm still learning this, which is she'll take, like, specific days, and it'll be my day, and she will just do, like, a full beauty day, or a full, like, I love that. Like, it's just, today is my day with my friends. We're going on all day long. We're going to do hikes and this and that. Or today is just my time to, like, sleep and do beauty stuff. And, like, I love that. I think it's so amazing to be able to regulate your life with positives, reinforcers.
Yeah, you need to teach a class in that to the autism moms, because we don't know how to do that. Honestly,
Of course.
we don't know how to do that.
I think a lot of people don't know how to do it, but it's just, I find it extremely important just for me to even be motivated at all to do anything. Like, I have to have at least, I don't know, half a day or a few hours to try and just relax and, like, enjoy myself. And I think that that's really important for everyone, because I think people in general just take things too seriously. And I mean, it's important to take things seriously, but also, like, at the end of the day, you are yourself, and you need to just relax and take care of yourself. And also, going back to what you were saying, yeah, I do think that it's kind of helpful for, like, I stay motivated because I know what I want. And so it's, like, easier for me to set goals because I know what I want to accomplish. But even before I really knew what I want, like, I kind of just stayed motivated because I wanted to find what I wanted, if that makes sense. And so, like, years ago, like, I feel like only this year I've really figured out what I want to do, but in the previous years, like, I just kind of threw myself into different experiences and kind of tried to challenge myself with that.
That's a very good point.
And can I say that being, you know, the person that was working with you on your internship, it was so funny because with all of our interns, I do a preference assessment. I go, so here are these tasks. You could do this, or you could do this, or you could do that. Would you like to do this or this?
Oh, interesting.
Right? And then I wait and see what it is that they respond to, because I want people to get something out of their internship.
That's what
and
I
by the way,
say.
we have availability for interns this summer, if you know somebody. But anyway, I think it's a pretty, it can be a very fun thing, and it should be a fun thing, an internship. But whenever I would say, well, you could do this or you could do this, there were only two things that she responded to. And one was, if you told her it would help somebody, then she was all over it. She was like, really, would that help somebody? That's the one I want to do.
Yeah.
So you were very much, I want to help people. But the other one was, is this something new that I don't know how to do that maybe even scares me a little bit? she was all over that.
Yeah,
one, too.
stretch
Yeah, how can I
activities.
grow?
Yeah.
That those were the two things. And then if there was anything else, she was like, well, I'm willing to do that, but these are the ones I'd like to do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
And would go headlong into, I mean, when I said to her, all right, well, we have to do this thing, a video shoot at a toy store, and we have to talk about the toys, and,
Right, I
and you
remember.
need to be on camera, and she was like, what? I don't know how to do that. And I was like, well, it's one of the things, and she was like, well, okay then. And she was brilliant. I mean, you guys have seen the video. She was really wonderful.
It was
and she made
awesome.
it fun for all of us.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And you kept a sense of humor about it and didn't let it get too serious. And you learned, I mean, you soak up like a sponge. You learn whenever you're doing something.
Yeah, I
We
think
like you, Charlie.
yes, we do. I think there's a couple of things like we usually. It's funny because when we talk about our kids and trying to figure out what they want to do in the world, we think subject. Like we're like, you know, are you interested in history or medicine or whatever? And it's not really about that. It's about the process. Like two things I know that Charlie really likes to do is organizing and problem solving. And as long as you get those types of things in whatever you do every day, you're going to have a very fun life and career because you're problem solving and organizing. Like I know for a fact I'm not good at organizing at all. I don't even enjoy it, as you can tell from my life and office, but I love problem solving. And hey, being the CEO of CARD really gives me a lot of opportunity to problem solve.
Yeah.
And I know that like if you can identify those types of mental activities, you'll enjoy whatever you do.
Absolutely. So we had somebody who wrote in a question and said, my son, 15, was diagnosed with high-functioning ASD a year ago. He's angry anytime topic comes up and denies that he needs any help, but grades are crashing and he has no real friends. What do I do?
So he's 15 years old, and where is he at?
I don't know where.
What class, or can you read that first section
So
again?
they say, my son, 15, was diagnosed with high-functioning ASD a year ago.
Okay.
So he was diagnosed at 14.
Yeah.
He's angry anytime the topic comes up, I guess, of the ASD.
Of course.
And denies that he needs any help, but his grades are crashing and he has no real friends. What do I do?
Okay. Let's try to break this down on friends. Okay. So clearly if he has... okay, so I'm trying to go back in time and figure out exactly what happened. And I'm guessing that something around 13, 14, maybe even longer, parents were concerned and sought out help and ended up getting a diagnosis. Wonderful. Now we have a diagnosis. It helps. It does not help in terms of intervention or knowing what to do. What I always tell people when I do a diagnosis is that the only reason this matters is that it's going to get you funding. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
Nothing else about this diagnosis matters in any way. And that's really important because there are two types of things happening right now. There are people who are getting diagnosed in their teens and they hate it because it is a major, they see it as a terrible label. Like that is saying to the world, this individual cannot do a bunch of things. And your child is hating that. Your child is thinking, wait a minute, this is not fair. Like, I'm doing my best. Why did you just pin a label on me that tells the world not to even give me a fair chance? Which is probably how he's seeing it. And then there's individuals who really don't even have the issues involved with ASD, but they're claiming it as an accommodation. They're sort of like, yeah, I have ASD. That means that I don't actually have to take my tests on time, or, you know, if I have issues with going to school, this is why, right? So in your child's case, it sounds like he doesn't like the label because the label is something negative to him. And there's a couple of different things you can do with this. First of all, you need to make sure he understands that there are like brilliant geniuses in the world who have this label. Like that's, I think, very important for him to know that people like Einstein were said to have very high functioning ASD. You know, there's a lot of literature about the incredible strengths of some people who have been diagnosed with high functioning ASD or Asperger's, which is high functioning ASD essentially, and they have changed the world in really significant ways. I mean, there's shows on this, right? What is the Young Doctor, or what is that show? You know, there's a series that
Young Doctor.
right, and it shows that there are people that are brilliant, and they have this diagnosis. So first of all, help your child understand that that negative stigma that he's upset about isn't really true. So that's one thing. But the other side of it is help him understand that labels don't matter. It's not about labeling something. It's about helping him figure out what's hard for him and then helping him with it. It's like me saying, oh, you know, I'm giving you the label of you know, math deficiency. Okay, great. Now I just gave you a label of math deficiency. What does that even mean? It means you have a very hard time with math. Instead of giving you that label, what I need to do is get you a tutor who can help you understand math. A lot of people have a hard time with math. Big deal. So a lot of people have a very hard time with various aspects of their grades. Maybe he has social issues in school that are causing him anxiety, and that's where you need to focus. So what I'm advising you is try to figure out, forget about the label for a minute, whatever it means to you. Perhaps for you as a parent it means, oh, that's why he's having a hard time. None of that matters. That's why, all of the past leading to the problems that he's having doesn't matter. What matters is what you do about it right now. So you need to figure out what are the things that he's having a hard time with. Is he having a hard time with friends? Let's figure out a solution so he can learn to make friends. Is he having a social issue? Are people making fun of him perhaps? What's going on at school that's leading to his grades crashing? Is it just because he's distracted? Maybe you just need to put him in the front seat. Is he having issues with, you know, teachers? Maybe they're not giving him enough time. Is it a time issue? Is he distracted by the bell? Like, figure out why he's having a hard time and then come back to us, and then we can give some solutions, because it's really not about identifying a label. It's about figuring out exactly the things in the environment that need to change in order for him to be successful. Let's look at the things he's really, really good at. That's why we built Skills, our online curriculum, this way, because every individual has a series of really strong skills and then some areas of weakness. And what you have to do as you're trying to strengthen those areas of weakness is you have to also highlight their skills and make sure they feel competent about themselves, and they feel like, yeah, you know, I'm not going to be the best at this, but I'm really good at that. And because they feel motivated and reinforced with this aspect of themselves, they are okay to working on these other things as well.
Yeah. The teen years are hard.
Oh my gosh.
And you know, I'm in the middle of that. It's just a really hard time. But there are plenty of role models out there. And we show some of them here on the show. And I think even if he doesn't appreciate them right now, he will eventually. You know, we show the video of Logan Shepherd all the time.
Yeah.
And Logan is about to be 18.
Yeah.
In just like a month, he'll be 18. Yeah. And what an incredible young man he is. And, you know, I know that when he first found out, because to him it was news, it was not like, woohoo, you know, it took him a little while to process that, but now he's on the other side of that.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, having the time of his life touring as a professional musician with girls screaming his name.
Yeah.
I mean, how hard must that be for him, right?
Yeah.
And friends, and he says, and we show it in the video all the time, he says, I want people to know if I can do this, then anybody can do this. And he's on a mission to prove to people that this is a perfectly wonderful way to live and be fabulous.
Right.
So even just showing your son that video, but I also would encourage you, maybe not him yet, but you to go to wrongplanet.net and read what a lot of people on the spectrum say and how they got through their teen years.
That's exactly right. It is a tough time, for sure.
It's a very tough time. So I believe we're down to 5 minutes here. So should we take a quick break? or can I ask you a quick
No,
question?
go for it. Let's
Okay.
finish up.
Do you want to ask this one, the one that I didn't separate correctly, or do you want me to read it?
You can read it.
Okay. My child had ABA for 1 year. She was in kindergarten. I had her go 2 times a week during school hours. Then the OT, after my daughter had 1 hour of ABA at Butterflies Effect in, I'm going to say that wrong, Metairie, Louisiana. I brought her there, then I brought her to speech for 45 minutes. That Medicaid allowed. Then after was a half hour of therapy, same place. It was a long year. Then I thought ABA could go in my child's new school year next year at grade 1. But the teacher said no, and that the class is only 4 kids and 1 teacher and teacher helper only. So that day, no more ABA ever again. That school, she now has been there 2 years with speech only 1 time a week at school speech. I waited 1 year communication device for my girl. It has pictures small and you put words.
Okay.
I know, this is not a 5-minute question, this is a 5-hour question.
Yeah, but it sounds like they're in Louisiana, and what I would recommend is that you reach out to our Louisiana site and ask for Dr. Catherine Hurd, Dr. Catherine Hurd, Heard. Ask for her so she can advise you through all of this. This is the type of stuff that just motivates me. Like I read this and I think, I need to just go and treat parents and help
Don't you
parents.
just want to get on a plane?
I just want to get on a plane.
And I want to go with you.
It's
Do you want to come, Charlie?
Yes.
We all want to come.
It's just so sad to think that you are. This is a parent that I just love this type of parent who's trying so hard to get the right thing for their child, and everything is an obstacle, and they're preventing you from getting what you need. Here's a couple of really quick things. You have a right to get ABA. You can get it in Louisiana. You can get it through Medicaid. There are providers, CARD being one of them, who will provide you ABA and will accept your Medicaid coverage and will help you with that. You need to go to your school again and say, I need continued ABA. It is your right to get continued ABA for your child for a long time. This was in kindergarten and it was a very short period of time. You do not need to jump around, by the way, and you should be able to get continued ABA for your child who is young, because she was just in kindergarten a year ago. So please don't give up. If you can get a hold of Dr. Hurd in one of our Louisiana sites, she travels to many of them, she'll be able to just give you some advice on the phone as to how you can continue to get some good ABA.
I have no idea what Traven is saying to me. Traven, I'm not hearing you. Could you turn it up? Sorry, because he's giving me the countdown. We have to. How long do we have, Traven? Minute and 40 seconds.
Yeah.
Go.
So I just want to advise that all I was just saying is that you need to be able to talk to Dr. Hurd so she can give you some more detailed information about your rights in Louisiana. I mean, this is just one of those things that bothers me. Your child deserves to get more ABA on an ongoing basis, and it will help.
Okay. And can we just talk for a second about what a prescription is? Because doing 2 hours of ABA
Is
3
not
times a
gonna be
week
enough.
is not going to be enough.
No.
Just so, the prescription is usually between 25 and 40, but really you would want to do every waking hour.
Yep.
But don't accept anything less than 30 is what I say to people when you're starting out. We've got 1 minute left.
And your teacher is telling you that your child is in a class with just 4 other kids and 1 teacher and 1 teacher helper.
Yeah.
That's actually a good ratio, 2 to 1.
Right.
So two children for each adult. If they were trained, they could be using ABA techniques with your child all day long.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what kind of class you're in, but call for an IEP, and I don't know what it's called in Louisiana. It might be called something else. But an IEP stands for Individualized Education Plan, and ask your teacher tell them you want an IEP so that you can sit down and discuss what is specifically needed for your child.
Yes, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act says that your child has a right to a specific plan to them, so the teacher can't just say we don't allow that.
That's
That doesn't
That's right.
federally
That
that
doesn't
doesn't fit. So in any case, we're out of time. I just want to thank you and say Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you so much.
And I want to thank
what a
Charlie
great
for
surprise.
coming.
Thanks for
and
having
surprising.
me.
This was
Thank
super
you for
fun for us.
surprising me.
Make sure that you tune in tomorrow. We've got a great show tomorrow. We're having Teresa Contreras on the show tomorrow for the first time,
Awesome.
which is very exciting. And then on Friday, Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. We have a very special guest, Alicia White, who's going to be with us, and a young man who does karate. So that's going to be a very fun thing. All of that's happening the rest of this week. Make sure that you're watching and getting the postcard. Subscribe so that you can get the postcard so you'll know what's happening. Until tomorrow, give your kiddos a hug for me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.